Good morning and welcome to Junior and Senior High Devotions. I hope you've had a really great week. We've been talking about taking time to rest, taking a break, realizing when we might need just a moment to sit, breathe, collect ourselves, and rest. We've talked about Sabbath, how God rested while he was doing the acts of creation. On that seventh day, God rested. We looked at the example of Jonah, and when Jonah was going through a long adventure, a long journey, and was frustrated and tired, he needed to take a break. And last week we looked at the example of Jesus. Jesus having these long, busy days of healing and teaching and ministry, but knowing that there were times he needed to go to a quiet, deserted place. And so that brings us to this week. What do we do after all of these times of rest? Now, it's great to go and rest, and it's a wonderful thing to do, but we need something to rest from, I think. And so when we have times of rest, after that, we are called to go and do. And so we're going to look at a story from the book of Acts. The book of Acts are the stories of the early disciples, the early apostles, and the things that they do to tell other people about the story of Jesus. And they are able to go and do extraordinary things, healing, talking about Jesus, and telling everyone this good news that God loves them, that they are saved, that they are forgiven of their sins and given the gift of everlasting life. But it's not an easy thing to do, and so oftentimes the disciples too would need periods of rest, and we find ourselves in the 5th chapter of Acts that we're going to be looking at with a little bit of forced rest. And so we'll find out what's going on right now. And so here is Acts chapter 5, and we're going to look at verses 17 to 21. Then the high priest took action. He and all who were with him, that is the sect of the Sadducees, being filled with jealousy, arrested the apostles and put them in the public prison. But during the night, an angel of the Lord opened the prison doors, brought them out, and said, "Go, stand in the temple and tell the people the whole message about this life." When they heard this, they entered the temple at daybreak and went on with their teaching. And so before this, all of these apostles have been healing and talking about what the writer of Acts talks about. Tell them the message of this life. And that's the good news of Jesus. And so they've been busy. They're doing a lot. And yet, even when they might need a break, they keep going. So perhaps they got to rest for a while there during their evening in prison and then see this angel of the Lord, and they take that message to go and do. Everything kind of works together here. We're called to go and do, and we're also called to make sure we are nourished. We're taking that time to rest. We can't run ourselves ragged. And so we need to take these moments we've been talking about to rest, to take some time to be in relationship with God, and then go and do. Go tell people about Jesus. Now, a really wonderful season is coming up next for us. For the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at the season of Advent and what that means for us, 4 weeks before Christmas. And so that too can be a busy time. You're going to find times where you'll need to rest and then go and do. Now, it'll look a little different this year, and we're not even quite sure what it'll look like. And so we're going to start a challenge this week. It's going to kick off this week and go into the first few weeks of the Advent season. What this challenge is involves going and doing, but kind of in our context right now. We can't go and bring Advent greetings to people who are in nursing homes. We can't go and sing carols in the front of people's homes. But what we can do is write messages of God's blessing to them. We can talk about Advent and how the whole Advent season, and we will, the whole Advent season is getting us prepared for Christmas, knowing that God is with us in the birth of Jesus. So we'll talk more about that. But also, simply, Christmas is a joyous time for us because we know Jesus is coming to earth, and that Jesus will redeem us, love us, save us from sin, and give us that gift of everlasting life, just like the apostles were trying to tell all of the people. And so since we can't go and do like we normally would, I'd like you to stay home and do. And that involves either making cards or getting cards that are already made and writing a nice message. Now you might not know who these cards are going to, and that's okay. Just write a message of Merry Christmas, Happy Advent, God is with you, God loves you, something that you could put in a card that could go to anyone. And what I'd like you to do is put them into their envelopes, whatever you'd like to do, or if they're already on their own and don't need an envelope, put them into a bigger envelope altogether, or if you're going to drop them off at church in a bag or a box, and take all of those cards and so send them to the church and we'll get them to the people who need them. It's so important to hear from you guys for the people in our congregation who might need a message of hope, joy, and encouragement in this season. So that's our challenge for this week and then for the first 2 weeks of Advent. We'll talk more about Advent each week, and I'll remind you to take some time to write a Christmas card to someone special in our congregation. You can say, again, Merry Christmas, God loves you, all of these wonderful messages we have together. You might even find some Christmas Bible passages to put in there. But again, you can make them, you can have cards that are already made and write a nice message and send them or bring them to the church office for a quick drop off. And then we'll get those cards, like I said, to people who will love to read them. And so we've talked about rest. So I hope you take all of your times to rest. And we've talked about the idea that rest fills us up to serve one another, to go and do. And like I said, right now it's best to stay home and do.